Welcome to my channel Sella Buzz. The Three Stooges were three funny guys named Moe Howard, Larry Fine, and Curly Howard. They were really good at making people laugh by hitting each other with pies or poking eyes, but their real lives were much sadder than the funny movies they made. Moe was the loud boss, but he also took care of his family and the group. Larry had curly hair and played violin, but he got hurt badly when he was a kid. Curly was everyone's favorite, but he had serious problems that nobody could see. People remember them for making us laugh, but their real lives were full of hard times that most fans never knew about. Moe's last dream, and when Shemp came back. Moe Howard was the one who kept the Three Stooges together from the very start. When they weren't making movies, he did all the paperwork, handled their contracts, and fought with Columbia Pictures to get them treated fairly. In the movies, he was the mean one who slapped his partners around. Moe Howard was the main guy who kept the Three Stooges going from day one. When they weren't filming, he handled all their business stuff, managed their contracts, and argued with Columbia Pictures to get better treatment. On camera, he played the angry boss who hit his friends. But really, he was the one who carried all the weight when others couldn't handle it anymore. Even when he got old, Moe still wanted to give the Stooges one more chance. He was quietly working on ideas for a new project that would celebrate their history, mix old jokes with new ones, and give fans who had followed them for years a proper goodbye. But his dream ended in early 1975, when doctors told him he had lung cancer. He lived longer than Curly, Shemp, and Larry, but just months after Larry died, Moe was gone too. He was the last original Stooge alive, but his final show never happened. Fans never got to see the tribute he had planned, and that silence became one of the saddest parts of his story. The problem of replacing people also hurt the Stooges much earlier. In 1946, when Curly Howard had a really bad stroke while filming Half-Wit's Holiday, the group lost its heart. Curly was loved by everyone who watched. His childlike acting and crazy energy made him impossible to replace. But the show had to keep going. That's when Shemp Howard, Moe's older brother and one of the first Stooges, came back to fill the empty spot. Shemp had built his own career in Hollywood, working with famous stars like John Wayne and Marlene Dietrich. But coming back wasn't a happy thing. Fans always compared him to Curly and were usually mean about it. His nervous style and less funny jokes clashed with memories of his younger brother's wild talent. The movies made during Shemp's time didn't have much money, had bad lighting, and used old footage over and over. For people watching, it looked like a group that was getting worse. But for Shemp, it was even harder. People didn't treat him like a real performer, but like someone just filling in for someone who could never come back. That quiet pain stayed with him until his own sudden death in 1955 when his heart stopped working at age 60. Larry's scars and the sweetness in the chaos. Larry Fine was born Louis Feinberg in Philadelphia in 1902. He never looked like the sad person he really was. With his wild, frizzy hair and soft, confused looks, he became the perfect guy between Moe's anger and Curly's craziness. But the strange kindness he brought to the act came from a childhood accident that almost destroyed his future. His father worked as a jewelry maker, using a dangerous acid to test gold. One day, when Larry was still a little boy, he thought a bottle of acid was water. His father acted fast, slapping the bottle out of his hand, but the liquid spilled on his arm, burning through his skin and muscles. The damage left his arm weak and shaky, and it could have ruined his whole life. To try to make the damaged muscles stronger, Larry's parents signed him up for violin lessons. What started as medicine turned into talent. Larry's arm got stronger and his skills got better, enough for his parents to dream about sending him to Europe for fancy music training. That dream ended when World War I made it impossible to travel to other countries, but Larry never stopped playing violin. Even as a Stooge, when pies were flying and hammers were swinging, he would sometimes pull out his violin and surprise people with beautiful moments in the middle of all the craziness. But Larry's nice personality made him easy to take advantage of. Unlike Moe, who fought the movie studios really hard, Larry often accepted whatever deal they offered him. He stayed in the background. He was the one who made things less harsh, both on camera and in real life, and who often tried to keep everyone calm when people got angry. By the late 1960s, Years of getting hurt in comedy movies and endless traveling started catching up with him. In 1969, right before filming Kook's tour, Larry had a massive stroke that left him unable to move. For the last 5 years of his life, he was stuck in a wheelchair, still trying to dance even when his body wouldn't let him. He died in January 1975, only weeks before Moe himself. For people watching, Larry was the gentle heartbeat of the group. For the Stooges, he was the one who carried scars from the very beginning, trapped by contracts and cheated by success. From the outside, it looked like the Three Stooges couldn't be touched. They were household names whose short movies packed theaters during the 1930s and 1940s. People cheered loudest for their 18-minute movies, sometimes more than the main movie itself. But behind the scenes, they were trapped in what Moe Howard later called a contract prison. When they signed with Columbia Pictures in 1934, their deal seemed okay at first, $1,000 a week for the whole group. But that money was split between 3 men and later 4, leaving each with way less than their popularity suggested they should get. The cruel part was in a small rule added by Columbia boss Harry Cohn called the open option. Every year, the Stooges contract had to be renewed, but only if the studio wanted it. The 3 guys had no power to renegotiate, no chance to ask for better pay, and no promise of job security. If they failed to make people laugh, Cohn could fire them right away. If they became more successful, they weren't allowed to ask for a raise. It was taking advantage of them disguised as opportunity, and it kept them controlled for more than 20 years. Even when their salary went up to $7,500 a week, it was still split between the group, and Columbia kept every cent from re-releases, TV reruns, and later home videos. By the time their movies were making millions, on new formats in the 1950s and 1960s, none of the Stooges saw a penny of the profits. Moe once said bitterly that they were the most famous unknowns in America. Their faces were recognized everywhere, but their names were never treated with respect by the movie business. The unfairness outlived them. In 1993, when Joe Curly Joe Dorito was dying, his share of merchandise money suddenly dropped. His widow, along with Larry Fine's granddaughter, filed a lawsuit accusing Moe's family of stealing more than $5 million in profits. The court case showed what had been true for a long time. The laughter that made studios and distributors rich left the performers themselves with little more than broken bodies and shrinking paychecks. Success had made them legends, but not wealthy men. The hidden cost of slapstick. For millions of fans, the Stooges' comedy looked easy. A hammer to the head, a saw cutting through a chair, a pie exploding on a face. Audiences laughed really hard, but the cost of those jokes was written in scars, stitches, and lifelong pain. Unlike later Hollywood comedians who worked with stunt doubles and safety crews, the Stooges often had little more than instinct to protect them. Their director, Jules White, had a reputation for pushing physical comedy beyond safe limits. To him, a joke wasn't funny unless it looked real, and real often meant actual mallets, heavy furniture, or sharp objects. In one filming, Larry Fine had a fountain pen stabbed into the back of his head during a routine where he played a human dartboard. He survived, but the pen had to be surgically removed. Curly Howard split his forehead open when a slapstick joke went wrong, leaving him with stitches hidden under a wig only hours later. Moe broke his nose during another take, barely stopping before cameras rolled again. Injuries weren't accidents. They were regular costs of meeting Columbia's deadlines. The pressure was constant. They filmed up to 8 shorts a year, often, with little time to heal between projects. Cuts, bruises, and head injuries piled up. The scariest example came during the filming of Three Little Pigskins in 1934. The Stooges were supposed to play against a team of real football players for laughs. When the 3 refused to do the scene, stunt doubles were used instead, and the result was terrible. The doubles got broken bones, cracked ribs, and head injuries, all for a joke. For the audience, these moments looked like pure chaos, harmless, and exaggerated. But the reality was comedy made of pain. Behind every laugh was a man who went home with swelling, broken skin, or blood hidden under makeup. In a sad twist, the Stooges became prisoners of their own slapstick. They had to push their bodies to the limit for the one thing the studio valued most, the the sound of laughter, enemies, violence, and dark beginnings. In 1940, the Stooges did something so brave that it shocked even Hollywood. At a time when America was still trying to stay neutral in the face of war, Moe, Larry, and Curly released You Nasty Spy, a fearless parody that made fun of Adolf Hitler directly. Moe played Moe Hailstone, a copy of the dictator, while Curly and Larry turned Hermann Göring and Joseph Goebbels into clowns. The short made fun of fascism with pies and silliness, and though it lasted just 18 minutes, it was groundbreaking. Rumors soon spread that Hitler himself had seen the parody and put the Stooges on his personal death list. Whether myth or truth, the idea showed how dangerous comedy could be when aimed at real power. For three Jewish performers, making fun of the Nazi regime wasn't just satire, it was fighting back. Not all of their famous moves came from the writing room. Their most famous gag, the eye poke, was born not from comedy but from anger. One night during a card game, Shemp accused Larry of cheating. In a burst of anger, he jabbed 2 fingers straight into Larry's eyes. Larry staggered back, shocked, while Moe watched quietly. Later, Moe turned that moment of real violence into slapstick. The eye poke became a signature move, repeated endlessly on film, hiding its dark beginning behind laughter. The darkness also went back to their beginnings. Before they were stars, the Stooges had been part of Ted Healy's vaudeville act in the early 1930s. Healy was loud, controlling, and often violent. His temper made life miserable for the group, and eventually they broke away to form their own act. But in 1937, Healy's story ended mysteriously. After a night of drinking at the Trocadero nightclub in Los Angeles, he got into a fight with Hollywood figures, including agent Pat DiCicco, rumored to have mob connections, and a young producer named Albert Cubby Broccoli. Hours later, Healy was dead at only 41. The official cause was kidney failure, supposedly from alcohol, but his body had bruises and cuts. The case was closed quickly, too quickly, leaving behind whispers of a cover-up. For the Stooges, it was a reminder that behind comedy's bright lights, Hollywood could be a place of shadows, secrets, and sudden violence. Haircuts, limping steps, and a bittersweet curtain call. Some of the Stooges' most recognizable traits came not from invention, but from pain and accident. Moe Howard's severe bowl haircut, the image of the loud, bossy leader, had a strange beginning. As a child, Moe's mother loved his curly hair, refusing to cut it because she had always wanted a daughter. But the long curls made Moe a constant target of teasing. One afternoon, after years of embarrassment, he grabbed scissors and cut the hair off himself. The uneven chop became the foundation of his later look, a hairstyle that would define him for the rest of his life. Curly Howard's famous walk had even darker roots. Long before he became the lovable clown, Jerome Curly Howard accidentally shot himself in the foot as a teenager. Scared of hospitals, he refused proper treatment, leaving him with a permanent limp. Instead of hiding it, Curly made the movement bigger, turning the limp into comedy. The bouncing shuffle became a signature of his stage presence, a gag that fans loved, never knowing it had started in pain. When Curly's stroke ended his career in 1946, the search for a replacement showed just how fragile the act had become. Director Jules White even considered Buddy Hackett, a rising Catskills comedian, to take Curly's place. Hackett said no, unwilling, to put himself through the grind of living in another man's shadow. In the end, Shemp filled the empty space, but the group never fully got back its old magic. Despite decades of being treated as second class by the industry, the Stooges achieved a rare victory in 1934. Their short Men in Black, a parody of Men in White starring Clark Gable, earned them an Academy Award nomination. They didn't win, but it proved that even slapstick could touch Hollywood's highest stage. The years that followed, however, carried more sadness than celebration. By the early 1970s, Larry was paralyzed. Moe was fighting cancer, and Curly Joe struggled with failing health. Moe died in March 1975, only months after Larry's death, closing the final curtain on the original Stooges. What remained were the films, hundreds of shorts filled with chaos and laughter. But behind every eye poke, every pratfall, and every pie to the face, there were scars, accidents, betrayals, and dreams that never reached the screen. Their comedy made the world laugh, but their lives told a much sadder story. The Three Stooges left behind a legacy of laughter, but their real lives were filled with pain, sacrifice, and secrets that fans rarely saw. They gave everything to comedy, even their health, their freedom, and sometimes their dignity. And yet, their work still makes the world laugh nearly a century later.